Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days. In today's video, this will take us to the start of November. Now, there was a suggestion over the weekend that we might get some really quite cold weather coming along next week, with winds going in to the north. For a time over the weekend, the computer models were churning out some very unusually blocked charts for next week in terms of Greenland blocking and northerly winds, proper Arctic winds. They backed off that idea overnight and into this morning. There is still the possibility that that could happen. It's not completely gone away, just the models have sort of backed away from it a little bit. I'll show the charts in a second and show you why it's on such a knife edge. But I wouldn't totally rule out the possibility that this idea could return over the next few days. Certainly be one to keep an eye on for next week. Before we get on with that, just to say about the ads that Gav's on this, there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse widgets and click through links to any articles that you're interested in. You'll be having us to pay for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. So just before I start off with the central temperature for October, because we have gone down into the tens. This is provisional. Up to yesterday, 23rd of October, we are at 10.9, an anomaly of 0.1 degrees below average, so almost bang on average, really. It's probably about as low as it's going to get, actually. The next few days do look fairly warm, especially around the middle and latter stages of the week, where we could see some really quite warm days, although it will be offset by cooler nights. I'm not sure we'll see much of a rise in the overall average temperature, but we're not too far away from average in any case. Whether we finish up a little bit above or a little bit below average, we won't be too far from the long-term average. Very different month to September, of course, which was exceptionally warm at 16.0, an anomaly of around 2.5 degrees above average. So it certainly has been a case that autumn has arrived with October. So these are 500 millimeter height anomalies for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS, we'll have a look at it in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by a jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure and blue to low pressure. So notice all of this red that's up over the top of the bowl. That is northern blocking. And as long as we've got that right, also extends down into the central part of the Atlantic. So that all looks quite good to be producing a northerly flow. The complication is this little bit of a ridge here across central parts of Europe. That's stopping, acting as a stopper to the northerly flow from setting in. So essentially you've got to take that ridge up and sort of engulf it within this wider blocking feature that's up over top of the pole. When we do that, this trough that is being placed at the moment across western Russia, that will back westwards into Scandinavia and central Europe. So we want to have a trough there, have the ridging all up here, of course, and down in central Atlantic, and that would open the door to northerly winds. It's just not lining up quite rightly, but you'll notice it's not all that far away from producing a northerly flow for us with that extent of blocking. So don't rule out the chance that the northerly winds that we're seeing on the models or in the models over the weekend, don't rule out the chance that that could come back for the first week of November. GFS is very similar. There's all of the blocking up over the pole. Really, really extensive northern blocking feature extending right way over top of the pole and down in towards Greenland as well. There's a trough underneath it through the central Atlantic, and then this much deeper trough here across eastern Europe and western parts of Russia. So again, just not lined up quite right. What we're doing with the jet stream is something a bit like that, and to get northerly winds, what we need to do is something a bit like that. So again, only subtle adjustments would deliver us into a northerly flow. Don't rule out the possibility that over the next few days the models could revert to a cold northerly flow for the start of November. Temperatures will be cooling down anyway at the start of November. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, around average at the moment. There's a warmer spell we've got coming up in the second half this week and just into the weekend. Temperatures go quite a bit above average, so the days will be quite warm, going at around 18 degrees perhaps in the south, although with clear nights and possibly mist and fog by night. The nights will be cold. So warm days, cold nights offsetting one another. And then as we go through to the start of November, this is 1st of November just here, which I think is a week tomorrow. That is when we get the drop in the temperature coming along. Now, there are still some members of the GFS ensembles that are really quite cold. So they go down to minus 5 at 850 HPA, which is pretty cold air coming down from the north. So certainly that possibility is there and it can't be discounted, albeit several members now of the ensemble don't get cold at all. The average of the GFS ensembles is still to cool things down below average, below the red line, but not down into that sort of drop to winter that we was looking at over the weekend. But it wouldn't take that much of an adjustment to bring that along. In terms of precipitation, so loads of dry weather coming up through the rest of this week. There is some rain in the south today. Once that's out of the way, I think essentially it's a dry story for the south. Anyway, the north will have rain on westerly winds later this week. Next week, it looks like we've got precipitation spikes coming back, but that is associated with all of this uncertainty in terms of what's happening here. So I think we had better dwell on that for too long. Temperature anomalies for next week look warmer than average, so most parts of Europe going mild than average. The cooler conditions are over in the western south of Russia down towards the Black Sea, but most parts of Europe actually looking warmer than average. Bear in mind this will be offset a little bit by colder nights, so probably the anomaly won't be as warm as this suggests in the second half of the week. Precipitation, again, looks significantly dry on average. It really has been a very, very dry autumn so far. This one, it looks like it's continuing, certainly to the next week. 24th October through the 1st of November looks very significantly drier than average. So here we go with the GFS for Friday then. We've got high pressure across much of the UK, albeit we are bringing a westerly flow for Scotland, so it's a little bit more unsettled there. But essentially most parts of the country are under high pressure. And quite mild air being brought around this high pressure, a bit like that. So the days will be pretty warm at the end of the week, up to around 17, 18 degrees. That's above average, but it will be cooler if the nights are clear, and particularly if they turn misty and foggy. If fog does form, it takes a while to clear. That will, of course, limit how warm it gets by day as well. Saturday shows high pressure building northwards across the whole country, so it looks a fine day for Saturday. I would assume under this ridge we've got an increasing risk of fog night and morning, however, so may not be as good as it looks. But if the sun comes out, it will still feel pleasantly warm. Now, over the weekend, Sunday was the day when we was going to take this ridge north and build it into the blocking feature that's to the northwest. This is the block sitting up here. It is there. It's right on the height anomaly. There's high pressure up over the North Pole and extending down in towards Greenland as well. This is the ridge. Yesterday, the idea was to move that into the blocking feature and then open the door to northerly winds. Now, we don't quite get that ridge going northwards today, so Sunday just keeps the ridge over top of the country, excuse me, and that keeps it mostly dry. Again, fairly warm by day, possibly cool and misty at night. Into the early part of next week, it's all getting rather complicated. We've got the ridge here still to the north. There it is over Greenland. It's extending into a ridge into the mid-Atlantic as well. These troughs that are in the Atlantic, they want to push southwards and introduce those cold northerly winds. But this ridge is still here across central parts of Europe. We need that to go to push the troughs through and then open the door probably to the northerly wind. We go through beyond that into Tuesday, 1st of November. And again, we find quite a complicated looking pattern, still not really in a northerly flow. However, we get through to the middle part of next week though, and up to day 10, finally we do begin to push that trough through. So by day 10, this is Thursday, 3rd of November, we have got a trough across Scandinavia. We're bringing cold northerly winds down. There we've got the ridge through the central part of the Atlantic. Just doesn't really form into a proper sort of Greenland blocking feature, but we are bringing down a cooler northerly wind. I'm not sure it's particularly cold, but it's certainly cooler compared to what we have over the weekend and at the start of next week. Now, to turn this into a proper spell of winter, essentially we've got to really intensify this ridge up here and then deepen the trough with Scandinavia, tighten the gradient, and that pulls the winds down from the north. So it isn't all that far away from doing that by day 10. It's just backed off the idea a little bit. The ECWF looks like this. For Friday, we've got the ridge in across the south, so mostly dry there. Westerly winds probably bring rain to Scotland. Early in the weekend, the high pressure will push northwards and give most of us a dry weekend. We go through into start of next week. This is the last day of October, Halloween. And again, the troughs are trying to come in from the north and west, but the ridge, there across Central Europe and also going up towards Scandinavia, there is quite a lot of high pressure up to the north. This is all sort of high pressure anticyclonic stuff up here. So that's trying to push the cooler or colder air down, just not lining up quite right at the start of next week. If we move on in towards the middle part of next week, this goes into start of November. Again, still things not quite right. We have again got quite a bit of high pressure up here, but we've got this ridge around the Azores. That's not helping things, and the low pressure just generally moving through actually from the west. And then we go through up to day 10, which is Thursday, 3rd of November. And it looks quite unsettled. Low pressure then is to the north of Scotland. We've got the ridge through the Atlantic and are trying to extend into a blocking feature across the north. That block has been reduced a lot compared to what we was looking at over the weekend, I have to say. But there is still some high pressure over the Arctic and going down in towards Greenland. But again, if we push this trough through into central parts of Europe, then we will open the door to that northerly wind. But it's all sort of ifs and buts with this now. Over the weekend, it looked like a very straightforward and really quite impressive cold spell coming up for the first week of November. And the idea has been reduced a lot overnight. Now, that's not to say it won't come back, because it's not a million miles away from the charts we're looking at the weekend. Just slight adjustments have led to a milder sort of first week of November. But don't rule out the possibility that we could get, time of year anyway, quite an impressive northerly blast through the first week of November. We need to keep an eye on it and see whether these models begin to intensify the northern blocking again, start to bring the idea back. For the rest of this week, however, quite straightforward. Going to be a lot of dry weather, and temperature going to be quite pleasantly warm later in the week as well, although there could be cooler, misty nights, and that risk of mist and fog and cool nights probably increases at the end of the week and into the weekend. Beyond that, will we get the northerly plunge? Have to wait and see. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.